My son stood in my living room, the same room where I used to rock him to sleep as a baby. He had his hands in his pockets. His face was calm. Too calm. Like he had rehearsed this moment 100 times in his head before coming here. And when he finally spoke, his voice was steady and distant. "Mom," he said quietly. "Sarah comes first now. You need to understand that." I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, holding a dish towel I had been using to dry the plates from dinner. The dinner I had made for him. The dinner he barely touched. I wanted to ask him what I had done wrong. I wanted to remind him of all the years I raised him alone after his father left. I wanted to tell him about the nights I worked double shifts so he could have new shoes for school. About the birthdays I celebrated with just the two of us because there was no one else. But I didn't say any of that. Because somewhere deep inside, I already knew this moment was coming. It started small. A missed phone call here. A canceled visit there. Excuses that sounded reasonable at first, but slowly built into something bigger. Something colder. And then she came into his life. Sarah. Beautiful, smart, confident Sarah. The woman who became his wife. The woman who, little by little, became the wall between us. I don't think she meant to push me away. At least, not at first. But intentions don't always matter when the result is the same. My son, the boy I gave everything for, was standing in front of me like a stranger. And all I could do was nod and smile, even though my heart was breaking into 1,000 pieces. "I understand," I whispered. But I didn't understand. Not really. How do you understand losing the person you loved most in the world? How do you accept that the child you raised no longer sees you as a priority? You don't. You just survive it. When I was 23 years old. Too young, some people said. But I didn't care. The moment I held my son in my arms, nothing else mattered. His father was there in the beginning, but he wasn't built for responsibility. He wasn't built for sleepless nights and dirty diapers and the weight of another life depending on him. He left when my son was 2. No big fight. No dramatic goodbye. He just packed a bag one morning and said he needed to figure himself out. I never saw him again. So it was just the two of us. Me and my boy, Daniel. I worked as a nurse at a local clinic. The hours were long and the pay wasn't great, but it was steady. I picked up extra shifts whenever I could. I wanted to give Daniel a good life. Not a fancy life, but a safe one. A stable one. We lived in a small apartment on the edge of town. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely big enough for a table and 2 chairs. But it was ours. And it was filled with love. Daniel was a quiet child. Thoughtful. He didn't ask for much. When other kids wanted toys and games, he was happy with a library card and a book. He loved stories. He loved learning. And he loved me in that pure, uncomplicated way that only children can love. I was his whole world. And he was mine. As he grew older, we became more than just mother and son. We became a team. He helped me with groceries. He learned how to cook simple meals when I had to work late. On weekends, we'd sit together and watch old movies, sharing a bowl of popcorn and laughing at the same jokes we'd heard 100 times before. People used to tell me I was too close to him, that I needed to let him have his own life. But how do you let go of someone who is your entire reason for living? I didn't know how. So I held on. Maybe too tight. Maybe for too long. To college, I was so proud. He was the first person in our family to go. He studied engineering. He was smart, focused, determined. He called me every Sunday. He came home for holidays. And even though he was building his own life, I still felt like I mattered to him. Then he met Sarah. It was his senior year. He mentioned her casually at first. "There's this girl in my physics class. She's really smart." Then it became, "I'm going to study with Sarah tonight." And then, "Mom, I want you to meet someone." I'll never forget the first time I saw her. She was beautiful. Tall, with long dark hair and bright eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She was confident in a way I never was. She spoke clearly, smiled easily, and had this air about her that made you feel like she belonged anywhere she went. I wanted to like her. I really did. But something inside me felt uneasy. Maybe it was the way Daniel looked at her. Like she was the only person in the room. Like I had suddenly become invisible. Or maybe it was the way she looked at me. Polite but distant. Like she was sizing me up, deciding whether I was worth her time. We had lunch together that day. I asked her about her family, her plans, her dreams. She answered every question perfectly. Too perfectly. Like she had prepared for an interview. And Daniel just sat there, smiling, completely oblivious to the quiet tension between us. After lunch, he walked me to my car. "So, what do you think?" he asked, his face lit up with hope. Smile. "She seems nice. She's amazing, Mom. I really think she's the one." The one. He had never said that about anyone before. I hugged him tight and told him I was happy for him. But as I drove home that day, I felt a small, cold fear settle in my chest. I was losing him. Not all at once, but slowly. Like watching the tide pull away from the shore, inch by inch, until there's nothing left but empty sand. They got engaged a year later. Daniel called me on a Tuesday evening, his voice full of excitement. "Mom, I proposed." She said yes. I congratulated him. I told him I was thrilled. I asked about the ring, the proposal, all the details a mother is supposed to care about. But inside, I felt something break. Because I realized that from now on, I would no longer be the first person he called. I would no longer be the one he turned to when he needed advice or comfort or celebration. That role belonged to someone else now. The wedding was beautiful. Simple, elegant, filled with people I didn't know. I sat in the front row, wearing a dress I had bought just for the occasion, smiling until my face hurt. I watched my son stand at the altar, looking at Sarah like she was his entire world. And I realized that I wasn't anymore. After the wedding, things changed faster than I expected. Daniel's phone calls became less frequent. Once a week. Then every other week. Then only on holidays. When I called him, Sarah often answered. She was always polite. Always pleasant. But there was something in her tone that made me feel like I was interrupting something important. "Oh, hi. Daniel's actually busy right now. Can he call you back later?" He rarely did. I started inviting them over for dinner. At first, they came. But Sarah always had something to say. The food was too salty. The house was too cold. She had an early meeting the next day and couldn't stay long. Daniel never defended me. He just apologized quietly and promised we'd visit again soon. But soon never came. I tried to be understanding. I told myself they were newlyweds. They needed time to build their own life together. I didn't want to be the overbearing mother-in-law everyone complains about. So I stepped back. I gave them space. But space turned into distance. And distance turned into silence. And one day, I realized I didn't recognize my son anymore. He wasn't the boy who used to curl up next to me on the couch. He wasn't the young man who called me every Sunday just to hear my voice. He was someone else now. Someone I didn't know. Someone who belonged to someone else. And the worst part? I didn't know if I'd ever get him back. The first real argument happened on Daniel's birthday. I had been planning it for weeks. I wanted to make it special. He was turning 28, and I thought maybe, just maybe, this could be a chance for us to reconnect. I baked his favorite cake. Chocolate with vanilla frosting, the same one I'd made for him every year since he was 5. I bought him a gift, a nice watch I'd been saving up for. Nothing fancy, but something meaningful. Something that said, "I still think about you. I still know you." I called him 2 weeks before to make sure he'd come. "Of course, Mom," he said. "I'll be there." I cleaned the apartment from top to bottom. I set the table with the good dishes. I even put out fresh flowers. Everything had to be perfect. The day came. I waited. 6 o'clock passed. Then 7. Then 8. I called him. No answer. I called again. Still nothing. Finally, at 8:30, my phone buzzed. A text message. "Sorry, Mom. Something came up with Sarah's family. Can't make it tonight. Rain check." I stared at that message for a long time. Something came up. Not an emergency. Not a crisis. Just something. I sat alone at the table I had set for 2. The cake sat in the middle, uncut, candles waiting to be lit. The watch was wrapped in blue paper next to his empty plate. I didn't cry. I just sat there in the silence, feeling the weight of being forgotten. The next day, I called him. Daniel, what happened yesterday? I'm sorry, Mom. Sarah's parents had a last-minute dinner thing, and she really wanted me there. It was your birthday, I said quietly. I know. But her family is important too. And I'm not? There was a pause. A long, uncomfortable pause. That's not what I meant, he said finally. You know that. Do I? Mom, please don't make this harder than it has to be. I'm not making anything hard, Daniel. I just wanted to see my son on his birthday. And I said I'm sorry. What else do you want me to say? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know what I wanted him to say. An apology didn't fix the loneliness. It didn't erase the hours I spent waiting. It didn't change the fact that I wasn't his priority anymore. I have to go, he said. I'll call you later, okay? He didn't. After that, I stopped reaching out as much. I told myself I was giving him space. But really, I was protecting myself. Every phone call that went unanswered felt like a rejection. Every canceled visit felt like proof that I didn't matter anymore. Months passed. I heard about his life in pieces. Through social media. Through mutual friends. Through the occasional short text message. He got a promotion at work. I found out from a Facebook post Sarah made, congratulating him with a photo of them at a fancy restaurant. Bought a house. I saw the pictures online. A beautiful 2-story home with a big backyard. I wasn't invited to see it in person. They adopted a dog. A golden retriever named Max. Sarah posted dozens of photos. Our little family is complete, the caption said. Our little family. Not ours. Theirs. I wasn't part of it anymore. Then came Thanksgiving. For 27 years, Daniel and I had spent Thanksgiving together. Just the two of us. It was our tradition. Our day. I had already bought the turkey. I had planned the menu. Green bean casserole, mashed potatoes, pumpkin pie, all his favorites. I called him 3 weeks before to confirm. Thanksgiving at my place, right? Same as always. There was a hesitation in his voice. Actually, Mom. Sarah's family invited us to their place this year. My heart sank. Oh. Her parents really want us there. And, you know, it's important to her. What about what's important to me? Mom. We've done this together every year, Daniel. Every single year. I know. But things are different now. Different how? Because you're married? I'm still your mother. And Sarah is my wife. The way he said it, so firm, so final, it felt like a door slamming shut. So that's it? I said quietly. I just don't matter anymore? That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. None of this is fair. He sighed, frustrated. Why do you always do this? Do what? Make me feel guilty. Make everything about you. His words hit me like a slap. I don't make everything about me, Daniel. I just want to see my son. Is that so terrible? No. But you have to understand, my life isn't just about you anymore. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat was too tight. I'll try to stop by the day after Thanksgiving, he said, his voice softer now. We can have a late dinner or something. I whispered. Mom. I hung up. I spent Thanksgiving alone. I made the turkey anyway. I don't know why. Maybe because I needed to keep busy. Maybe because some part of me still hoped he'd change his mind and show up. He didn't. I ate a small plate by myself, watching an old movie on TV. The apartment felt too big. Too quiet. Too empty. At some point, I looked at my phone. There was a message from Daniel. Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. Love you. I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my door unannounced. I opened it to find him standing there, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable. Hi, Mom. Daniel. I didn't move to let him in. Can we talk? I stepped aside. He walked in slowly, looking around like he was seeing the place for the first time. I wanted to apologize, he said. For Thanksgiving. I know you were upset. I wasn't upset, Daniel. I was hurt. I know. And I'm sorry. I crossed my arms. Are you? Or are you just here because Sarah told you to apologize? He looked down. Silence. That told me everything I needed to know. She thinks I should try harder to stay in touch with you, he admitted. She says family is important. That's funny, I said bitterly. Because she's the reason we barely talk anymore. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you called me without her telling you to? When was the last time you came here just because you wanted to see me? He didn't answer. You used to call me every Sunday, I continued, my voice shaking. You used to come over for dinner. You used to care about what was happening in my life. But ever since you married her, I've become nothing. You're not nothing. What am I, Daniel? Because I sure don't feel like your mother anymore. He looked at me with frustration in his eyes. What do you want from me, Mom? I'm trying. I'm here, aren't I? You're here because she told you to be. Not because you wanted to. That's not, he stopped himself. Took a breath. I love Sarah. She's my wife. And yes, she comes first now. That's how marriage works. And where does that leave me? You're still my mother. But you can't expect things to stay the same forever. I don't expect them to stay the same. I just didn't expect to be completely erased. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly exhausted by the conversation. I don't know what you want me to say, he said quietly. I want you to say that I still matter. That I'm still part of your life. That I didn't raise you alone for 25 years just to be forgotten the moment someone else came along. He looked at me. Really looked at me. And for a moment, I saw my little boy again. The one who used to hold my hand. The one who used to need me. But then the moment passed. Sarah comes first now, he said, his voice steady. You need to understand that. And there it was. The truth I'd been trying to avoid. I wasn't first anymore. I wasn't even second. I was just left behind. 3 months passed after that conversation. 3 months of silence that felt heavier than any argument ever could. Daniel didn't call. I didn't call him either. We were both too stubborn, too hurt, too tired to try anymore. I told myself I was fine. I went to work. I came home. I kept myself busy with small things that didn't really matter. But the truth was, I felt like I was disappearing a little more each day. Then one evening, my phone rang. It was Sarah. I stared at her name on the screen for a long moment before answering. Hello. I stared at her name on the screen for a long moment before answering. Hello. Hi, Mom. She never called me that before. It sounded strange coming from her. It's Sarah. I know, I said carefully. Is everything okay? Is Daniel all right? He's fine. Actually, that's why I'm calling. I wanted to talk to you about something. My stomach tightened. Okay, can we meet? Maybe for coffee tomorrow? Just you and me. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to refuse. But another part, a part that still hoped things could somehow get better, made me agree. Sure. Where? There's a cafe near our house. I'll text you the address. All right. She paused. Thank you for agreeing to this. I know things have been difficult. Yes, they have been. After we hung up, I sat there wondering what she could possibly want to talk about. Was she going to tell me to back off completely? Was this her way of setting boundaries? Or was there something else? I barely slept that night. The cafe was small and modern, the kind of place where everything was carefully designed to look casual, but cost twice as much as it should. Sarah was already there when I arrived. She sat at a corner table, 2 cups of coffee already waiting. Hi, she said, standing up to hug me. I accepted the hug stiffly, then sat down across from her. I got you a latte, she said, sliding one of the cups toward me. I wasn't sure what you liked, but Daniel mentioned you drink coffee with a little milk. Thank you. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. She wrapped her hands around her cup, looking down at it like she was gathering courage. I wanted to talk to you, she began slowly, because I think there's been a lot of misunderstanding between us. I repeated quietly. Yes. She looked up at me. I don't think you like me very much. And I understand why. I didn't deny it. There was no point. I took your son away, she continued. At least, that's how you see it. Right? I took a sip of my coffee, saying nothing. She sighed. I'm not trying to replace you. I never was. But I think Daniel felt caught between us. Between trying to make me happy and trying to make you happy. And honestly, I think it was tearing him apart. Then why didn't you encourage him to spend time with me? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. Why was it always about your family, your plans, your schedule? She looked surprised. I did encourage him. I told him to call you. I told him to visit. But every time he did, he'd come back feeling guilty and frustrated because you made him feel like he was abandoning you. I never said that. You didn't have to. He could feel it. I felt my chest tighten. So this is my fault? That's not what I'm saying. Her voice was calm, steady. I'm saying that Daniel loves you. He really does. But he also felt like he could never do enough. Like no matter what he did, you'd always be hurt or disappointed. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking slightly. After his father left, I said quietly, it was just the two of us. For so long, I gave up everything for him. My social life. My dreams. Everything. He was all I had. I know, Sarah said softly. And he knows that too. That's part of the problem. I looked up at her confused. He feels guilty, she explained. Guilty for having his own life. Guilty for getting married. Guilty for being happy. Because somewhere in his mind, he thinks that being happy with me means he's betraying you. Her words hit me harder than I expected. Ferd. I know. But that's what happened. We sat in silence for a moment. The cafe buzzed with other conversations, other lives moving forward while mine felt stuck. I'm pregnant, Sarah said suddenly. I looked up at her, shocked. She gave me a small, nervous smile. 3 months. We just found out the gender last week. It's a girl. A girl. My granddaughter. I felt a mix of emotions I couldn't quite name. Joy. Sadness. Fear. Hope. Does Daniel know you're telling me this? I asked. No. He wanted to wait. He wasn't sure how you'd react. Why are you telling me now? She leaned forward, her eyes serious. Because this baby deserves to know her grandmother. And Daniel deserves to have his mother in his life, without all this pain between us. Tears welled up in my eyes before I could stop them. I don't want to fight anymore, she continued. I don't want to be the reason you and Daniel are apart. But I also can't be the only one trying to fix this. What do you mean? I mean you have to let him go a little. You have to trust that loving me doesn't mean he loves you less. You have to stop making him choose. I never made him choose. You did. Every time you guilt-tripped him for not calling enough. Every time you made him feel bad for spending holidays with my family. Every time you acted like I was the enemy. I wanted to argue. I wanted to defend myself. But deep down, I knew she was right. I had been holding on so tight that I was suffocating him. I was just scared, I admitted, my voice breaking. Scared of losing him. Scared of being alone again. You're not going to lose him, Sarah said gently. But you have to give him room to breathe. You have to let him be both your son and my husband. You have to let him be a father without feeling like he's abandoning you. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. I don't know if I know how to do that, I confessed. Out together, she said. Because whether you like it or not, we're family now. And family doesn't give up on each other. She reached across the table and took my hand. I looked down at our hands, mine worn and tired, hers young and strong. 2 women who loved the same man in different ways. 2 women who had been fighting a war neither of us wanted. I'm sorry, I whispered. For making this so hard. I'm sorry too, she said. For not trying harder to understand you. We sat there for a long time, just holding hands, 2 people trying to find a way forward. That evening, Daniel came to my apartment. Sarah had told him about our conversation. He stood in the doorway, looking uncertain, like he didn't know what to expect. Can I come in? He asked quietly. I nodded, stepping aside. We sat down on the couch, the same couch where we used to watch movies together when he was young. Sarah told me what you 2 talked about, he said. I know. She also told me she told you about the baby. I smiled through fresh tears. A girl. He smiled too, but it was a sad smile. Yeah, a girl. I'm happy for you, Daniel. Really. Are you? Yes. And I'm sorry. For everything. He looked at me surprised. I held on too tight, I continued. I made you feel guilty for living your own life. And I'm sorry. That was never what I wanted. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry too, Mom. I should have tried harder. I should have made more time for you. You were trying to build your own life. That's what you were supposed to do. But I didn't want to lose you in the process. You didn't lose me, I said softly. I'm right here. I've always been right here. He pulled me into a hug, and for the first time in months, it didn't feel forced or uncomfortable. It felt like home. "I want you to be part of our lives," he whispered. "I want my daughter to know her grandmother." "I'd like that," I said. "I'd like that very much." Followed were different. Not perfect. Not like before. But different in a way that felt healthier. More honest. I started seeing Daniel regularly again. Not as often as when he was younger, but enough. Enough to feel like I was still part of his life. Sarah and I began meeting for coffee once a month. At first, it was awkward. We didn't know what to talk about. We'd sit there making small talk about the weather or her pregnancy symptoms or my work at the clinic. But slowly, something shifted. She started asking me questions about Daniel as a child. What he was like. What his favorite things were. Stories I hadn't thought about in years. And I started asking her questions too. About her childhood. Her dreams. The life she and Daniel were building together. I learned that she lost her father when she was 16. That she understood what it felt like to have a family torn apart. That she wasn't trying to take Daniel away from me, she was just trying to build something stable with him because she knew how fragile family could be. We weren't friends. Not exactly. But we weren't enemies anymore either. We were two women learning to share space in the same heart. Daniel invited me to their house for the first time in early spring. I pulled up to the driveway and just sat there for a moment, staring at the home they'd built together. It was beautiful. A soft yellow house with white shutters and a garden in the front that Sarah had planted herself. His real life. And I was just visiting it. But that was okay. Because being a visitor was better than being shut out completely. Daniel opened the door before I even knocked. "Mom, you made it." He looked happy. Genuinely happy. And that made everything worth it. "Of course I made it," I said, smiling. He gave me a tour of the house. Showed me the nursery they were preparing. Soft pink walls. A white crib. A rocking chair in the corner. "Sarah picked most of it out," he said, running his hand along the crib railing. "But I built this myself." "It's beautiful, Daniel." He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. "Do you really think so?" "I do. You're going to be a wonderful father." His face softened. "I hope so." "I'm terrified, honestly." I laughed gently. "That's normal. I was terrified too when I had you." "Really?" "Really. I had no idea what I was doing. But you figure it out. You learn. And you love them so much that the fear doesn't matter anymore." He smiled. "I'm glad you're here, Mom. I'm glad we're doing this." "Me too." Sarah made dinner that night. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, but it was made with care. We sat around their dining table, the three of us, and for the first time, it didn't feel like I was intruding. "So," Sarah said, setting down her fork. "We've been talking, and we wanted to ask you something." I looked between them, curious. Daniel reached over and took Sarah's hand. "We want you to be in the delivery room. When the baby comes." I froze. "What?" "We want you there," Sarah repeated. "If you want to be, of course. No pressure." Tears filled my eyes immediately. You really want me there?" "Of course we do," Daniel said. "You're going to be her grandmother. We want you to meet her the moment she arrives." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, wiping my eyes with my napkin. Sarah smiled warmly. "We also wanted to talk to you about her name." "Her name?" "Naming her Grace," Daniel said. "Grace Marie." "Marie. My middle name." I broke down completely then. Not sad tears. Not bitter tears. Just overwhelming, grateful tears. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." Sarah got up from her chair and came around the table. She knelt beside me and took my hands. "You were always going to be part of this," she said gently. "You're his mother. And now you're going to be Grace's grandmother. That's not something we take lightly." I squeezed her hands, unable to find the words to express what I was feeling. Daniel came over too, wrapping his arms around both of us. And in that moment, sitting in their home, surrounded by their love, I realized something important. I hadn't lost my son. I had gained a family. Grace Marie was born on a warm June morning. I was there, just like they promised. I stood in the corner of the delivery room, watching as my son held his wife's hand, whispering encouragement, his face a mixture of terror and awe. And when that baby finally came into the world, crying and pink and perfect, I watched Daniel cry too. He looked at her with the same wonder I had looked at him 28 years ago. The nurse cleaned her up and handed her to Sarah first. She held her close, tears streaming down her face, whispering things I couldn't hear. Then she looked up at me. "Come here," she said softly. I walked over slowly, my legs shaking. Sarah placed Grace in my arms. She was so small, so fragile. Her tiny fingers curled around nothing, her eyes squeezed shut against the bright lights. I whispered, "I'm your grandmother." Daniel stood next to me, his hand on my shoulder. "She's beautiful," I said, my voice breaking. "She is," he agreed. "Just like her grandmother." I looked up at him, surprised. He smiled at me, really smiled, in a way he hadn't in years. "Thank you, Mom," he said quietly. "For everything. For raising me. For loving me. For not giving up on us." "I could never give up on you," I said. "You're my son. You'll always be my son." "I know. And you'll always be my mom. That's never going to change." We stood there together, the three of us, four, counting Grace, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Things weren't perfect after that. Life never is. There were still moments when I felt left out. Still holidays where I had to share him with Sarah's family. Still times when I wished things could go back to the way they used to be. But I learned to let those feelings pass. I learned that loving someone doesn't mean holding onto them so tight they can't breathe. It means giving them space to grow. Space to build their own life. Space to love other people without feeling guilty. And it means trusting that even when they walk away, they'll still come back. Because love doesn't disappear just because life changes. It just grows. It stretches. It makes room for more people. Daniel didn't stop being my son when he became Sarah's husband. He just became both. And I didn't stop being his mother when Grace was born. I just became a grandmother too. And that was more than enough. As I tell you this story, it's a quiet Sunday afternoon. The kind of day where time moves slowly and the world feels gentle. On my coffee table, there's a framed photograph. It was taken 6 months ago at Grace's first birthday party. In the picture, I'm holding her on my lap. She's reaching for the camera with frosting-covered fingers, laughing at something Daniel said. Sarah is standing behind us, her hand resting on my shoulder. We look like a family. Because we are. It took me a long time to understand what that meant. Family isn't about being someone's entire world. It's about being part of their world. A piece that matters, even when there are other pieces too. For years, I thought love meant holding on. Keeping Daniel close. Making sure he needed me the way he did when he was a child. But that's not love. That's fear. Real love means letting go. It means watching the person you raised walk toward their own future, even when that future doesn't revolve around you. It means accepting that they'll build new relationships, new traditions, new families. And trusting that there's still a place for you in all of it. I see Grace every week now. Sometimes Daniel and Sarah bring her to my apartment. Sometimes I go to their house. We take turns, and it feels natural. Balanced. Last Tuesday, Sarah asked me to babysit while she and Daniel went to a doctor's appointment. It was the first time they'd left Grace alone with me. I fed her. I played with her. I sang her the same lullabies I used to sing to Daniel. And when she fell asleep in my arms, her tiny hand clutching my finger, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Needed. But not in the desperate, clinging way I used to feel. Needed in a good way. A healthy way. I was her grandmother. And that was a gift I almost lost because I was too afraid to share my son with anyone else. And say everything is perfect now. There are still moments when I feel lonely. Still nights when I wish Daniel would call just to talk, the way he used to. But I've learned to fill my life with other things too. I started volunteering at the clinic more. I joined a book club at the library. I reconnected with old friends I'd let drift away during all those years when Daniel was my only focus. I learned that being a mother is important. But it's not the only thing I am. I'm also a nurse. A friend. A reader. A woman with her own life, her own interests, her own worth. And discovering that, really understanding it, has made me a better mother. Because now when I see Daniel, I'm not coming from a place of emptiness, desperately needing him to fill a void. I'm coming from a place of wholeness. Happy to see him. Grateful for the time we have. But not broken when he has to leave. Sarah and I had coffee again last week. She told me they're trying for another baby. I wanted you to be one of the first to know, she said, smiling. A year ago, hearing that might have scared me. Another child meant Daniel would be even busier. Even more pulled in different directions. But instead, I felt excited. That's wonderful, I said. And I meant it. You'll help us, right? She asked. With grace? When the new baby comes. Of course, I said. I'd be honored. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm really glad we got here. You and me. I know it wasn't easy. No, I agreed. It wasn't. But it was worth it. It really was. So if you're listening to this and you're in a similar place, if you're watching your child build a life that doesn't revolve around you, I want you to know something. It's going to hurt. It's supposed to hurt. Because love always hurts a little when it changes shape. But that doesn't mean you're losing them. It just means they're growing. And your job isn't to stop that growth. It's to grow alongside them. Let them go. Trust them. Trust the life they're building. And trust that there's still a place for you in it. Because there is. There always will be. You just have to be willing to see it. My son doesn't call me every Sunday anymore. But he calls. And when he does, I can hear the happiness in his voice. He's building a beautiful life. And I'm so proud of him. And the best part? I get to be part of it. Not the center of it, but part of it. And that's more than enough. Thank you for listening to this story. If you were in this mother's position, how would you have handled it? Would you have held on tighter or let go sooner? Please share your thoughts in the comments. I truly value your perspective. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more real-life emotional stories about family, love, and healing. Your support means the world. Until next time, take care.